Obviously, the past 70-something years, the Toyota Land Cruiser has been the de facto vehicle if you want to go off-road. The United Nations drives it, and that really tells you all you need to know, I think. But this new generation also promises to be better on the road, because obviously if you make a hardcore off-road vehicle, that doesn't necessarily translate to good on-road performance, and this one promises to be just that. My name is Peter, and in this video I'm going to show you all around this Toyota Land Cruiser, the new 2025 version, and we're actually going to find out if it's good or not. I have to do a little bit of expectation management at the beginning of this video, because obviously a car built to drive over mountains and snowy plains and everything is not going to do much damage here in the Netherlands. A couple of days ago it snowed, and I took a small off-road video that I'll link up here that gives you a little bit of a taste what this car is capable of in, you know, a normal flat country like here. But by no means I'm going to be able to take the car to the extremes that it's capable of in this video. So take it for what it is. This is just going to be a review of the car itself, the ins and outs and so on. And if you want to see the real hardcore off-road stuff, you can see that video to give you a little bit of a taste. That said, we're going to start here on the front with obviously a typical Land Cruiser face. Toyota has made a few changes. The normal version has blocky headlights, but this first edition you get the circular headlights, so you can recognize the addition right away from the get-go. The front bumper is important because this is a modular bumper. Obviously when you go off-roading, you're inevitably going to break something, and if you have to replace the whole bumper, that's expensive and impractical. So this one can be replaced in modules, which is smart. Going around the car, you can also see this striping. That's also only for the first edition version. There is a blue version available as well with some blue striping, but this is kind of nice because it matches my jacket. The first thing that stands out with this car is obviously the sheer size of it. 2 meters wide, almost 5 meters long, and I'm 183 tall, and you can see that it's taller than me. It's 190 and a bit tall as well. So it is a massive vehicle, and it's a traditional ladder frame with a body on top. So a lot of modern SUVs, road-focused SUVs, they have a monocoque structure, which is of course great for on-road performance, but when you want to have hardcore off-road capabilities, a ladder frame with a body on top of it is more durable and just better performance overall. The second thing that stands out comes with the size, and it's these huge windows. Now these windows, the window line especially, has been dropped compared to the previous model for better view out, because obviously when you're off-roading you want to have as much view out to place the car where you need to be. And the more glass you have, the better that works, obviously. Upside of that is that it also works great in and around a city, because you can imagine navigating a vehicle this size through a city or a parking garage. You're going to need all the help you can get. And there's a bunch of cameras and stuff already, of course, but more glass is always a better solution as well. Now, despite this being the first edition with the striping and everything, and you can see these running boards here and the big chunky roof rack on top, this is of course a slightly tame version, if you want to call it that way. If you want to kit this out fully, you're going to have a tent on the roof and extra lights on the light bars on the windows and all kinds of tires and everything going on. That's not the case. This is still sort of a street orientated version, if you want to call it that way. But there's a whole aftermarket world full of kits and accessories that you can fully kit this car out to basically tackle the Dakar rally if you want to. Moving to the back, normal fuel tank. Obviously no hybrid stuff going on here quite yet. This might be the very last one. Pure diesel power, 2.8 liters, 200-ish horsepower, 500-ish torques, and all the four-wheel drive options that you can get, as we'll see on the inside later as well. 80-liter fuel tank, so you know this is also a vehicle with range despite the poor fuel consumption. Standing here in the back, there's a lot of improvements here. First of all, the lights, looks cool, very modern touch, but the main thing is the boot lid. So the previous version had a hinge here on the side, so you can open it a bit like a refrigerator, which I'm sure is great if you're on a mountain somewhere, but in a parking garage or if you're just parking in your street, not so practical. This one has two options. First of all, there is this. You can open this up and put something here or get something out of the back. Very handy from everything from your shopping, but also when you're off-roading and you have some kind of closet system here in the back. Very handy, so you can just get some stuff. Second one is the whole boot. And again, the sheer scale of the vehicle comes into play here, because as I said, I'm 183 tall, I'm not a short person, and I can easily fit under the whole boot lid here. So that's really handy when it's raining and you're off-roading and you want to change your boots, for example. It reveals the gasping vastness of the boot. It's 1.30 meters deep, more than 120 wide, and about 1 meter high. And you can see when I sit in it with my 90 kilos, there's room for 3 adults in here. No issues whatsoever. This is the 5-seater version of the car. There's also a 7-seater available. Then obviously you get 2 seats here in the boot, eating up your boot space quite a bit. But this 5-seater version is cavernous. This is nothing short of a van, basically. So that is pretty amazing. Now that space is partly achieved because there is a spare tire, but it's not in the boot. It's actually here under the car. So that's actually pretty smart from Toyota that they didn't put it under here somewhere, because it's impractical, especially when you have stuff in here. But it's available right here on the bottom. Nice touch. Other than that, there's not that much going on in the boot. There's a little double floor with some towing equipment, a tire kit, and maybe some small bit of extra storage, but that is about it. And then you have a few tie-down points here on the sides, which is always handy. And you have a full-size socket here. So that is also handy to charge your power tools, your water boiler, and everything in between. And as you can see here, 220 volts, 100 watts. So that is actually quite nice. So all around, good improvements that Toyota has made to the practicality, some things that make sense. And also design-wise, I think they've built quite a good-looking car here. Sitting here in the front of the Toyota Land Cruiser, obviously I got to give you a tour around. And it's an interesting mix in here, where Toyota has obviously tried to up their game in terms of a luxury vehicle, that this inevitably is considering the price point, but still has to stay true to its roots of this being a pure, basically off-road vehicle. So I'll take you around. First thing that you notice is like these squares here, and you can see them maybe down here as well. Those are padding. Obviously, when you're off-roading, you're, bouncing around the car a little bit. And when you're hitting the hard plastic with your knees and your elbows, that's unpleasant. So Toyota has thought that through and put a little bit of extra padding in here, which is nice. The only thing they forgot to put is any padding over here, because this is still just hard plastic. And these seats are not bucket seats or anything, so you will be bumping here. All around the cabin, it's buttons only. You can imagine that when you're doing any kind of off-roading or maybe some snow driving or anything, you'll be wearing gloves in the car. So there's no touchy, swipey surfaces anywhere in sight. So that is excellent. Everything is manually operated, so that's great. Apart from the screen still is a screen, so you're going to have to operate that probably with either very thin gloves or just with your finger. But luckily, most interactions you can do without using the screen at all, so that's great. We got traditional buttons for the window, nothing going wrong there. We got a typical, basically Toyota steering wheel with all real buttons as well. So radio, cruise control, everything manual, real buttons. That is great. Simple stalks for your indicators and your wipers and stuff as well. Nothing going wrong, very typical Toyota. Nice steering wheel, feels good. And through the steering wheel I have a basic standard Toyota driver's display as well. The same as you'll find in the Yaris or anything else, so nothing going wrong there either. There's a few extra menu items you can get for your off-road things specifically, but that is about it. Moving to the middle, we have a giant Klima unit here, all with real buttons. So this is all physical buttons that you can easily adjust. Temperature, fan speed, seat heating, seat cooling, all the things are here. Everything manual, everything great. So this is easy to operate with gloves on and easy to make quick changes on the go without having to go into 5 menus over there. So that is excellent. And it also shows the combination of things. So this is a car that you can take through the desert with your seat ventilation on and the air conditioning set just right. Simple manual vent controls as well. Awesome. And when we go underneath, things start to get slightly more serious with a sort of afterthought audio button over here. Not really sure why it's there. But also a power heater and a camera view button and a whole bank of charging options. So you can see my phone on the wireless charging pad down here, but you have 3 USBs and even an HDMI in, so you can watch a movie after you're done off-roading. Then we get to the good stuff. Very chunky gear lever with simple P, R, N, and D, and also a manual option if you want to select gears yourself, maybe handy when you're towing. 8-speed automatic in this car, and you can manipulate it with that. But the big thing that you want to manipulate is the drivetrain. So we have a rotary dial here for your standard mode select for on-road. So that is Sport, Normal, and Eco. Those you'll never use because this is not an eco-friendly car nor a sporty car on the road, so you're going to leave this in normal all the time. But you can press this button for your multi-terrain select button, and then you can go through dirt, through sand, through mud, and through snow. And obviously the car will adjust settings from the engine and the diffs and the four-wheel drive system accordingly. And you have a DAC crawl button. That is basically your low-speed cruise control. So you can set this at 15 kilometers an hour and cruise through Alps, mountains, uphill, downhill. It serves as a hill descent as well. And you can manipulate the speed with the rotary dial afterwards. So that's very handy. So this is your basic first layer of interaction with the terrain. Then the really serious stuff is down here. Here we got our low range gearbox, so that is the first one. And then we have our diff locks, center diff and rear diff. Obviously when things start to get serious, then these are the things that you're gonna manipulate. There's also a stabi bar, as you can see here, because there's no diff in the front, but you can unlock the stabilization bar in the front completely with this button to create even more options when it comes to going off-road. And obviously when it's connected on-road, it offers you a little bit of extra stiffness for more comfort. So these are your really hardcore off-road tools in combination with the driving modes. So that's nice. That also shows how serious this car really is, because you know, there's a lot of things you can do just in D already. If you watch the video of the little off-roading I did earlier in the week when it was snowing, I didn't even touch these buttons. I just left it in D and the car already figured it out by itself. But when you start to get into real serious stuff, then you can start to play with the drive modes and even diff locks and so on. So really cool, and it really shows how much of a machine this car really is. A bit more creature comforts here in the middle under the armrest. We got some cup holders here, and under the armrest we have a button with a cool box on it, and that means we can actually cool our drinks here. It's not big enough to, you know, put your whole dinner in, I think, but it's enough for a few small bottles. So that is nice. And again, like I said, it shows that you can cruise through Kenya, through the deserts, no problem, with your seat ventilation on and your drinks nice and cool. All around, it's a very nice cabin, very Toyota, but with nice touches to the off-road capabilities of this car. We got a panoramic roof in this one as well for a bit of extra light, which is nice because it's all black and dark brown in here. And overall, it's a good place to be. It's nice. You sit so high. You have a commanding view over, as you'll see when we start driving later as well. It feels really king of the road and king of the jungle that way. And these seats are nice and comfortable too, not bucket seats or anything, so I fit in them. They feel luxurious, especially for a Toyota, especially for a Land Cruiser. And overall, it's just, yeah, it's nice. It fits together with what they're trying to achieve, finding that balance between hardcore off-roader and also a good car to just be in, not just utilitarian. All right, driving the Toyota Land Cruiser, there's a few things we need to get out of the way right away. Fuel consumption, nope. 10 liters on 100 if you're lucky, and anything beyond that is who knows. 2.8 liter diesel, 200 horsepower, 500 newton meters, 80 liter fuel tank, so it does have some range, but it is not an efficient car. Speed, nope. 165 kilometers an hour top speed, and Toyota doesn't even claim a 0 to 100 kilometers an hour time. It's not a fast car. Obviously, with 2.5 tons and this little power, it's not going to be fast in any way, shape, or form. Obviously, you can get on the highway and everything without too many issues, but in no circumstance are you going to be a fast vehicle. That said, you're such a large vehicle, you're basically one of the biggest vehicles on the road, that you don't feel the need to go fast at any point, and people also don't really mind that you don't go that fast. They sort of assume you're not that fast anyway. What this car is for is this kind of stuff. There's a little field here, and I just feel like going left, and I can just go left. And it's a snowy, slippery, sort of unknown piece of grass, no problem. And that is the really interesting thing if you start driving this car, especially on these all-terrain tires that come as standard with the car. This kind of stuff you sort of assume is fine, and it is. It just does this, and it's without diff locks or without anything. You can just do stuff like this. And that is, I think, the summary of this car in short, that this is a terrain vehicle that is also capable of doing stuff on the road, rather than a road car that is also capable as a terrain car, like maybe a Cayenne or a Land Rover, for example. Here in the back of this Toyota Land Cruiser, you expect a lot of space because it is a lot of car. And it starts off well, because we have these running boards on the side and the handles here, so, you know, it's that getting in off-road feeling. right away, that is, my kids love it, so that's great. But that is where the great news ends, because sitting here, despite the volume of the car on the inside, you can see that I'm basically touching the roof already. Thanks to this panoramic roof that ends here in the middle, I'm touching the roof right here. If I sit in the middle of the seat, I'm actually against the roof. So anybody taller than 183, it's not really going to be that pleasant here in the back. Anybody smaller, no issues whatsoever, because it's nice and comfortable back here. We got seat heating and seat cooling on these outer two seats. So it's again the theme that I mentioned in the front. You can drive through the desert here with your seat cooling on in all comfort with the air conditioning set just so. So that is nice. There's a lot of sort of physical space here on the bottom. I have plenty of space for my feet. There's enough knee room here behind myself, although it's not that much. Sitting behind my camera woman, it's a bit better. But yeah, overall it's an okay place to be, but you expect a little bit more considering the size of the vehicle in terms of actual space for me to be. Sitting here behind myself, the seats are not massive, so they're easy to look past, especially for kids. That's a very important feature to feel comfortable in the car. But thanks to the volume of the car, it's quite comfortable to be here to begin with, because there's an easy connection to the front of the car with the people in the front, so that's nice. There's a lot of light and information coming from the front, and also these windows are very deep, as you can see. So for me, but especially for kids, it's easy to see out of the car and see what's happening outside, and that really adds to the comfort of the car. And especially when you're doing off-roading with people in the back and you're, shaking about, it's important that you get a lot of visual input from the outside. So as far as that goes, perfect. Here in the middle, there's a few options as well. We got a lot of charging here with 2 USBs and a 12-volt connection. And you can see the heating and the cooling of the seats here, and the air conditioning obviously can be adjusted here in the back as well. 2 separate zones. All round, the materials are great. It's a good place to be, but be it a bit more cramped than expected with the size of the vehicle, like I already said. Some last things, we got some armrest here that is standard Toyota with the open cup holders, which are annoying because you're always in the cup holder with your hand or your wrist. And then we also have some ISOFIX, which is actually very nicely judged, because the normal ISOFIX in Toyotas are with a little flap here that is not connected to the hole, and it just flies away. Here we have a nice cover with some Velcro that will reveal the ISOFIX points. So that's actually, it's a pretty elegant solution, I think. Nicely done, and it would be nice to see this in all other Toyotas as well. But obviously we got to drive this car on the road a little bit to get that feeling of on-road performance. And obviously it's a very capable vehicle off-road, so that translates partially to on the road as well. You sit high up, so you have a great overview outside. You know exactly what's happening around the car. You can see the corners very well. You have a lot of view in your rear view mirrors as well. Thanks to the camera systems, you can see even more. So that's fantastic. But the fact that it is rough, it's noisy, the engine especially is rough and noisy. It doesn't make it a comfortable long distance cruiser, because it's not stiff enough. There's too much roll in the body. There's too much compliance in the suspension. The engine is too loud. Yeah, that doesn't add up to be a pleasant long distance vehicle, even though it's certainly capable of it. Combined with the fuel consumption, that's pretty crazy, even despite the big fuel tank. It doesn't work that way. In the city, it's a similar story. Even though you can see around pretty well, it's such a huge vehicle that it's hard to place. It is a total king of the road feeling in the city, though, because you're driving around and you're sitting shoulder to shoulder almost with truck drivers. And that gives you, it's very funny when you bump into somebody in a Range Rover or in a Cayenne, for example, and you're like, oh yeah, hi down there. It's kind of nice. And also knowing that you are the most capable vehicle on the road at all times is quite nice, because it gives you that sort of invincible feeling. And I think I can totally imagine that if you're somebody who has maybe like a horse situation going on, or if you're a farmer and you need a reliable vehicle to check your fields and everything, then this is the vehicle for you. Because then, like here, I can just go left and we're in a slippery field again, full of ice, water, and who knows what else. I don't have to change gears. I can have my seat heating on. It's comfortable, and it's so capable. You can't do this with normal cars. And granted, the tires make a difference, but it is just so capable. And that constant feeling of capability is the underlying thing in this car. You constantly feel, once you've done this once or twice, or if you even had a previous Land Cruiser, and you know that this is possible, it's amazing to have that constant feeling of I can go anywhere, anytime, any place, no problemo. And that is really, really cool. And then yeah, driving it around is, it's doable, it's all fine, but you notice that it's not the vehicle to drive in and around town or even on the highway. Even though it's possible, you know, it's all fine, nothing's going wrong once you take the speed and everything into consideration. But yeah, it's too compromised on the road, I'd say. And you especially notice it when you're braking, all that weight, all that transfer of energy, it feels not sort of incapable, but it feels very much out of its comfort zone. After a week with the Toyota Land Cruiser, I am completely in love with this car. The capabilities and the options that you have with this car, if you get a little taste of what it's capable of, are absolutely fantastic. On the road, it is severely compromised because it's too big, it's too heavy, it's too long, it's too slow. So you can really tell that this is an off-road vehicle first and an on-road vehicle second. That said, I think the improvements Toyota has made compared to the previous model are solid. The interior is now nicely modern, up to date. The changes on the inside are nice, the changes on the outside are nice with the modular bumper, the rear boot. All those things make a lot of sense and bring this Toyota Land Cruiser in this current form nice up to speed into the modern age. That said, unless you are a farmer or unless you deal with horses, for example, I don't think this is the car for you. There's much better cars available if you are primarily an on-road driver that wants to go off-road occasionally. That said, if you are a farmer, then this is the default vehicle for you, I think. Price-wise, it is a very painful story. Here in the Netherlands, this car is about 70,000. There is 15,000 VAT, and then there's nearly 110,000 in extra taxes because of emissions, because of the weight, because of the four-wheel drive and all those things. So it is very painful here in the Netherlands that this car costs nearly 200,000 euro as it sits here. That said, the package is complete. The capabilities of this car are without question, and I think it is a fantastic vehicle all round. So hopefully at some point in time I can drive this properly off-road in anger. So Toyota, if you're watching, call me. Until then, hopefully you liked the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you do so and you don't want to miss any future videos, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Cheers!